Welcome to my tutorial. If you like to skip to a certain step, all you have to do is click on the scene and it will take you directly to that particular step that you last left off on. This should be a very quick tutorial and quite easy to follow. I've made sure to pay attention to all details you'll need to finish this project fast and efficiently. Let's get started. These items can be picked up at any home improvement store. You're going to need some safety glasses. You're going to need a Dremel that is powered by a cable, none of the battery operated stuff. You're going to need a PVC saw, measuring tape, painter's tape, a pencil, and be able to do this with it. You'll need 2 foot by 4 inch PVC piping, a bell trap drain for the base, some Rust-Oleum universal paint. I chose brushed nickel, some 220 very fine sandpaper, and some acrylic latex silicone and a caulking gun. So now that you have everything you need, we'll start with step 1, measuring. You will start off by measuring your PVC pipe top to bottom, and you will place a mark with your pencil, a horizontal line at 10 inches, which is representing a future cut that will be the bottom of the project. I suggest you do the same on the opposite side as well. This will ensure that you have a straight line in the future. Step 2, creating the line for future cut. You will use blue painter's tape to create a line going from the first line on the front of the PVC, wrapping all the way around straight so that it lines up perfectly with the horizontal line on the opposite side that you created before. Take your time doing this, no rush. Make sure there are no creases in your tape. No creases means it's straight. Step 3, your first cut. Using your thumb, line up the PVC saw to cut along the line that you have just created with your painter's tape over the top, the outside of the painter's tape. Take your time, yet again, make sure that you are flat, you are cutting at a straight angle, that you are not rushing or anything like that. This PVC saw works quite fast. It definitely can be a little bit tiring, but it is the most efficient way to do it. Don't worry about using your Dremel just yet. Step 4, the beginning outline of the cradle. To make the cradle, we're going to measure from the factory side 7.5 inches down and mark that with another horizontal line. If you would like to measure the back side again, just to ensure that you have a straight wraparound with your tape that you will be using as you did in the last step. Very similar method here. We'll be using painter's tape to create the entire outline of the cradle. So you can set your headphones on there and ensure that they're not going to be in the way, that your cut is basically right underneath of the earphones or wherever you'd prefer them to be, just so long as the headphones do not interfere with where your cradle will be. So let's go ahead and begin our mark. We're going to take our painter's tape and just do as we did before, making sure that there are no creases in the tape and that we're taking our time making sure that everything is nice and straight. Step 5, outlining the bottom of the cradle. Alright, so what you're going to need to do now is that 7.5 mark from the top of the blue tape that is representing that line. You will measure down 3 inches and you will place another mark there. You will repeat the process that you did in the last 2 steps, marking it with tape and ensuring that it is straight. Step 6, creating the spine. Using blue painter's tape, marking at about 1.5 inches from the edge, you will take and then use your edges to create a straight line down. So you'll have to crease it at the top a little to make that straight. Top off both edges with a piece of painter's tape going all the way down from top to bottom.
Especially if you ain't feeling the garbage. I'm heartless when I hear the beat so heartless. You went studio, we did this shit in Blah's crib with Lars lit.
Now you're left with 2 pieces of blue tape here on the inside there that you can see are creating the outline of your cradle. You'll use another piece of tape to create a 45-degree angle on both sides there. And this outline and where I'm showing you here is where you're going to cut. You're going to cut on the inside here. Make sure that you don't cut past into this area because this is your spine and that would be bad. Step 7, cutting the cradle. Using your Dremel and starting on the left and right edges, sticking to the insides along the line that I showed you. You will score your edges and then slowly work your way all the way through. You just want to score it at first so that way you have an easy straight line to guide you. Take your time, make sure that your cut is right before actually cutting. Once you've ensured that you have cut all the way through the PVC pipe on both edges, you can begin scoring the lines on the top and bottom of the cradle. But for now, instead of actually being able to see how that's done, you're just going to look at my arm, because that's what you get. I'll actually turn it around here so you can get a better angle. This is very easy. Don't be afraid. Have a little confidence. You see, it's a very easy thing to do. You don't cut all the way through it because we're going to cut all the way through it with our PVC saw. And much more control over a handheld saw. Look at me go with that thing. I don't suggest going that fast. Kind of take your time. Make sure that you get to each edge and that you are freeing the piece that will soon reveal your cradle.
Which way to go, like a game of Monopoly. Real estate of mine, but the fakes are hot. Property, the devil's caught blocking me. I'm stuck on Highway 61. You tell my mom the only route for me is the risky one. Left or right is the question now. As we're figuring our direction now. But really we're just like you.
Pop it out, and there's your cradle. You can now take the time to remove all of your tape. You are done cutting. Go ahead and place your headphones atop of the PVC pipe and prepare for the next part of your project. Make sure that the controller and the headset line up appropriately. You'll then take your pencil and on the top edge of the PVC, you will mark the outermost edges . Now, I guess I lied a little. I said you were done cutting. That's not quite true. You're going to cut the notches out on both sides. Make sure that they're straight with each other, that on the adjacent end of the PVC that you can tell that it is lining up straight with those. And you will cut all the way to half point on your Dremel disc. Then, as before, to mark the straight line, you will line up the bottoms and place your tape straight across, which gives you your line that you will now score across the top very carefully, slowly working your way down until you can't go any further with your disc. Then flip it over and finish out the cut. Step 8, sanding. All you really need is to get the very top coat off. It's very easy, it doesn't take very long, especially with the 220 grit sandpaper. It comes right off, becomes less glossy and more matte looking. So just take your time doing this, make sure that you get all the edges, make sure you get the inside as well. Make sure that you get the drain also, and don't even worry about sanding the part that I'm holding on to here. You're going to need that smooth so that way the top piece can fit down over it. I suggest using soapy water to make that happen as well. Step 9, painting. When you're painting, it's important to stay back about 6 to 8 inches and move in light sweeping motions. Your first coat should be a light dusting, which is basically just a primer coat. It promotes adhesion. The cool thing about the Rust-Oleum Universal paint is that it is both primer and paint in one. Using your free hand, spin the project, and from the bottom up, spray your spray paint into an even coat across the entire project.
The exact moment you accept fate faded. Accept and scream, no one can hear you, space pacing. But wanna float like attached to no cords. Distortion going over rust, watching their faces flake off. I trust I have the patience. Free-handed the shape and handing out tapes. I haven't found a way to be read without delivery. Speak with the
Make sure that when you're painting, you also get the insides as well. Across the inside of the top and inside the cradle.
Or maybe this isn't your idea of ascension. I don't know, I could use some old magic.
The final steps. You're almost there. After applying your second coat of paint and you've allowed it to dry for about an hour, go ahead and get your acrylic and fill in the gap along the bottom.
Torn manuscript to the born board and by a single file line, unaware of livelihoods, expandable inner sanctum. Ill inheritance, this isn't inferior collection of work.
And here's a close-up of my cock. Make sure that it is a small bead across. You don't want to overdo it and have a bunch of excess when you go to smooth this out. Now, a trick to smoothing this out is getting your finger a little wet first, and then very, very carefully and as smooth as you can, pull off all the excess. Wipe it off onto a towel, paper towel, just get it off your fingers. You want clean fingers along the entire process of this. It's very easy to get it messy. Now, I've also created a hole by accident that didn't fill up correctly, which is no big deal. We can fill that up with any excess, or you can always use a piece of acrylic that's left over off the top of your gun, which is what I'm doing here. I'm going to use some that just on its own came out, and I'm going to fill up this hole. Then I'm going to make sure that there are no edges bumping up anywhere. We're going to have to make sure that it's all nice and smooth and that it all bevels down correctly and evenly so that we can get our final coat of paint on this. Let this dry for about 40 minutes before you go to paint it though. Awesome. All that's left is to put on your final coat of paint, making sure that you put enough paint down to cover up that base. And here is your project in the end. Your friends are going to be like, I can't believe you made this out of a piece of PVC, out of a drain. And they're going to ask you what possessed you to do it. And you're going to say, well, there was this guy on the internet, his name's Drumblanket. He showed me how. Thanks for watching the video. If I helped you out, give me a like, subscribe, check out my other stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.
While I watch him interface, juggling and struggling.